What is going on, Cincinnati Bearcats fans? I'm Neil Meyer here of the Front Office News, here with Shrine Bowl Director of Player Personnel, Eric. Eric, how are you doing today?
Good, man. How are you doing?
Good. Now, we are here live at Big 12 Media Days discussing all things the Big 12, but most importantly here in this video, we're going to be talking to Cincinnati Bearcats. So, overall, in years past, we've sent a lot of Bearcats down to the Shrine Bowl there to represent Cincinnati as they make that next step in the transition to the NFL as well. So overall here on this episode, we got 4 guys here representing Cincinnati at Big 12 Media Days. You have offensive lineman Gavin Gerhardt, tight end Joe Royer, defensive lineman Dante Corleone, and quarterback Brendan Sorsby, along with head coach Scott Satterfield here. So, Eric, overall, just talk about some of these guys here and what's been your early impressions on Cincinnati heading into this year.
Yeah, last year we had Corey Kiner, and we noticed a year ago watching Cincinnati that there is a ton of talent across the board on offense and defense, on the O-line or at tight end. The D-line, certainly with Dante now coming back as well, too. So I think the number of NFL draft prospects is certainly going to shoot up this year for sure for Cincinnati, too. And I think all 4 of these guys have a chance not just to be drafted, but especially for guys like Joe and Dante when healthy, a chance to be pretty early draft picks as well.
Yeah, and you guys got a first-hand look at Corey Kiner. What was something that really stood out to you about Corey Kiner throughout his college career?
I think the decisiveness as a runner. Started his career, come to Cincinnati, and really kind of develop that confidence as like the workhorse running back. But I think his one-cut ability, and ends up in San Francisco, where they're known for their one-cut running backs and making plays upfield. I think he's done a great job of that his whole college career. I think for Corey, the development he took a little bit as a pass catcher and route runner out of the backfield this last year, and they showed that at the Shrine Bowl as well, I think further showed that he could be a one-cut guy and get upfield, but can also develop into a 3-down back as well.
And I think the biggest thing for a guy like Corey that got him to the position he's in today was his work ethic and his determination. I think that was something you guys saw as well. But for his size and his being, 5'8", 5'9", have you seen a running back that has the leg strength to be able to run people over like Corey?
A couple of my time. I mean, Isaiah Pacheco may be the best encapsulation of that. I'm not going to compare Corey to Isaiah, but Isaiah is my guy, and I think Isaiah is as tough a runner as I've ever seen. But I think for Corey, because he's so decisive, he kind of keeps those shoulders down and square and gets upfield, that when he does have contact, he's so balanced, he can work through guys without trying to truck guys over. So it's really ease of kind of break tackle ability that Corey Kiner had as well. So, but again, at San Francisco, they've had a lot of those guys over his career. Jordan Mason was just there. He got traded to the Vikings, obviously McCaffrey, but then Isaac Rendo, former Shrine Bowl alum. So the Niners know how to really have those guys who are really decisive, consistent, balanced running backs work in their system to be really productive when they get the chance.
So overall, heading into this upcoming season, obviously we talked a little bit earlier, Jake Golday is a guy who really stands out for Cincinnati on the defensive end, came from an FCS school in Central Arkansas.
Yeah.
What stands out to you about a guy like Jake Golday? Obviously the decision-making, the IQ, but his ability to get downhill and kind of get to the quarterback is another thing that really stands out on tape.
I think it's a mix of the athleticism and the fact that he's not some undersized guy either. He's got some length to play in space and play on the perimeter and play upfield as well too. He sticks his nose in there and gets involved in the midfield as well too. But I think the development he can show really this year, playing in space, playing laterally, blitzing off the edge, blitzing in the A and B gap, and then getting back in coverage because he has that length. When you're that long and that athletic, you can make some mistakes in your first couple steps and still be successful. I think he showed that already in his career. If he can clean those things up, he'll shoot up to be a guy that NFL teams think, hey, that guy can develop into a starter. So we're really excited about seeing how he develops this year for sure.
Yeah, and when it comes to Jake Golday, when we watched him throughout spring and summer last season when he first arrived on campus, a guy who kind of reminded us of was a bigger Ivan Pace in a sense, because you can do so much with him. You can put him on the edge, you can get him downhill and attack, you can drop him into coverage and he'll make a play. Overall, do you kind of see that kind of comparison as well a little bit?
From a Cincinnati comparison, yeah, and I think for Ivan, I mean, he had to be perfect in everything he was doing, right? And it's very difficult. I think that's why undersized linebackers have a tough time in the NFL, because one misstep and that guard in the NFL is going to take you over, where I think Jake has a bit more wiggle room to play. But I kind of mentioned earlier the ability to blitz off the edge, on the inside, drop back in coverage. He's got enough length, and I think he developed that kind of vision to do a little fake step and get back in coverage and kind of play those cover 2 drops as well. So I think the versatility is clear, the athleticism is clear, the length is obvious. I think taking that next step to be even more efficient, again, the sky's the limit for a guy like Jake.
Now, flash forward to 2025, a guy like Dante Corleone, who's in his 5th season of college football, could have came out to the NFL a few years ago, elected to come back, then he had the health situation last season, he's back fully healthy this year. What really stands out to you on tape about a guy like Dante Corleone?
I think it's a trust. I think NFL scouts would agree that go through there. They've seen him play and they've seen him be really successful as an A-gap defender, as a guy who can fill holes and take on 2 blockers. He can play in a 1 or a 2 gap scheme if needed. to. He can rush the passer when it's a one-on-one situation. And there may be guys who are a little more twitchy and athletic as a pass rusher, maybe some guys who are longer and can play better in space and do whatever. But I think his ability to be really efficient and successful and consistent when he is on the field, what NFL teams are going to value. Guys that are that big, that can move like that, they're hard to find. That kind of planet theory NFL teams have. And I think for a guy like Dante, NFL scouts are going to come in the year knowing that he's consistent. If he can show that this year and maybe go 1 or 2 ticks higher on some of the pass rush stuff and one-on-one, that'll vault him back to being an early round draft pick.
Yeah, and it's important to kind of note too, if he can bounce back to that level of trajectory and that performance that he was in 2023 before the health injuries, that this Cincinnati defense is going to take a huge step. Now, in terms of that, when you look at Cincinnati, there's an arguably a good potential that there could be 2 first or second round draft picks on this roster between Dante Corleone and Joe Royer. What would that mean for a program like Cincinnati in your eyes?
I think it'd be huge. We just heard a little bit earlier about the transfer portal, and every team now that I speak with is really focused on retention. But if you can have first, second, third round draft picks, you're going to get a lot more guys who want to come to your program and maybe take a little bit less or see the development piece. And I think Joe's a good example of that, of coming to Cincinnati, getting a chance to show he can do a lot more than he was in his previous school. And now he's gone from being a guy last year would have been a clear draft pick, maybe a top 5 round guy. I'm always on the pessimistic side when guys want to go back to school, but I think he would have been a top 5 round draft pick, and now he comes in. Every NFL scout knows who he is. They saw what he showed a year ago. His athletic ability and size, you clearly know where he can get better. Now he's been up early in the draft as well, too. I think when NFL prospects that are freshmen, sophomores, juniors see that a program like Cincinnati can help those guys develop, can go from a guy that was a well-touted prospect, come to Cincinnati and takes that next step, it's going to help both the transfer side as well as the retention side of Cincinnati for a long time.
Absolutely, and I think that's huge. Now, when you're watching a guy like Joe Royer on tape, what really stands out to you? Obviously, he does so many things well. His athleticism stands out, his ability to go out and catch the ball on the outside, but his blocking skills are what really stands out to me on tape. Is that something you guys see on tape as well?
I think he just shows he's kind of like, right now, last year was kind of like a scrappy glue guy in a basketball team where he's going to hustle and do everything you want him to do. And there's the athletic ability that he can take over a game if you ask him to. I think that's what he showed last year. It's like, okay, this guy can play in any tight end in the NFL tomorrow. If he's your tight end 2, he's going to block the heck out of it. If that's third down, he can do a quick hitch route, make that play in traffic, and finish that catch point. If you want to go vertical, hey, he's got enough length and ability to go vertical as well, too. I think the only step left for Joe is to show that, hey, he can kind of be the identity of the offense, which is asking a lot. Travis Kelce did that way back when. He kind of showed NFL teams he can do that. That's a big, big next step that not many guys can do. But I think Joe has the talent to do that. And, of course, I think, quarterback and Sorg, he's going to look for Joe to be more of a target in the passing game. But you said it earlier, the versatility, the effort that he shows, what he can do, a little of everything really, really well, that's really valuable in today's NFL, where most NFL teams want to run 11 personnel, have one tight end out there. Guys like Joe are in demand.
Yeah, and then on top of it, we flip back to the offensive side of the ball. Cincinnati's bread and butter in the last few years has been the run game. Obviously, we talk about a guy like Corey Kiner. It all starts up front in the trenches there when it comes to running the ball, especially at a Power 4 level, Power 5 level. But what stands out to you about Cincinnati?
I like Power 5. Power 5 is better.
I think the Power 5.
AC's in there. Maybe we'll see Pac 6, Pac 12 next week. That's as well too. But I think the offensive line is a super important piece for guys like Joe. Right, the offensive line's playing well. He can go out and space more and be more of a receiver and not be reliant as a blocker as well. The running game was successful like Corey Kiner. Again, those one-cut schemes rely on really athletic offensive linemen. And your center Gerhardt's a really refined technician who can clearly lead that offensive line mentally, but I think his ability to kind of get in space, be balanced, be controlled, not make mistakes. When you're inside the offensive line in the interior, the focus is not make mistakes, right? The more you're away from the ball, the more its athleticism really matters. But if you're a center or a guard or interior player, it's that quick reaction and being decisive. I think he does a great job of that.
Now, speaking of Gavin Gerhardt, too, obviously that's probably going to be someone that will find himself preparing for the upcoming NFL draft here, whether that's a Shrine Bowl or a Senior Bowl, whatever it might be. What really stands out to you about Gavin Gerhardt? Now, you don't see many 6-year offensive linemen within college football. What does that really kind of say about the kind of player he is?
I think it matters from NFL teams. Interior offensive line, quarterback, linebacker, those positions where reps can develop football IQ. He's gotten a lot of those reps. He's seen a lot of football. He's played a lot of football at a really high level. That's going to matter for him too. I think he encapsulates, hey, he's not undersized. He's played a lot of football. He's made the mistakes and gotten better from them in his college career. It's really, really valuable for an offensive lineman. But I think I said earlier, a really refined technician. He's a guy that Nose tackles up front, 325. He knows where to get to his spots and be controlled. I think in space, more zone blocking stuff, he can get upfield and be really decisive. He plays within himself at a really high level. A lot of offensive linemen in college try to do too much or try to be a freak athlete. They're not. I think Gavin knows how to play within himself and be really consistent. I think for NFL teams, they're dying for consistency on the offensive line. They've had enough of the athletic offensive line they developed for 3-4 years. They want guys who can come in and hold their own. I think NFL teams, every year, the last 3-4 years, the 6th, 7th round is littered with guys like Gavin. He can shoot for more than that, but I think guys like Gavin, NFL teams want those guys at some point in the draft because they want guys who can come in and play tomorrow, can handle the playbook, can develop, can make their other offensive linemen better as well. So I think for Gavin, him taking that next level will be important, but just being himself is enough for a lot of NFL teams.
Awesome. And my final question for you is, heading into year 3 under Scott Satterfield, what do you think this Cincinnati team is capable of doing this season? Obviously, it's the best roster that they have had on paper under Coach Scott Satterfield.
Yeah.
What do you think the expectation is for Cincinnati this year?
It's hard to say in terms of trying not to be too optimistic, but the Big 12, all the coaches have said it last year and this year, and it's the truth. It's the most wide open conference, for better or worse, right? That means you could be the first place team or the 16th place team. We saw Arizona State last year, 16th, and now the first. Like, that was not surprising to me in terms of all those teams were kind of similar too. And I think this year as well, I don't know who the worst team in the Big 12 is, and I'm not sure who the best team is either. So I think in Cincinnati, you got the quarterback who's experienced, you got the offensive lineman, a playmaker at tight end, a D tackle, a linebacker transfer coming in. You got a lot of great players on that roster. The expectation should be to win the Big 12. I know that's crazy as it sounds, and I don't want to be too optimistic in case you guys go whatever, but I think it's a realistic expectation. You got a great coach, a great system, great people in the personnel department, the coaching staff. I think the time is now to take advantage. We saw Arizona State a year ago. Again, not a team expected to do great things, but they had a good quarterback, a couple good offensive weapons, a defensive backfield that played really, really hard, a defensive line that was successful, and they had a chance to win the national championship. So high expectations for Cincinnati this year on my end.
Awesome. Well, Eric, before I let you get out of here, just tell people where they can kind of follow your work or give them an explanation on what you do on a day-to-day basis.
Yeah. Follow all the stuff at the Shrine Bowl, at Shrine Bowl, myself, at Eric Galko, EricGalko on Twitter, X, whatever they call it these days. And the Shrine Bowl is actually going to be back here in the Star in late January. We'll have content all week long, all year long and all week long during the week as well, too. Releasing our Shrine Bowl 1000 later this month. It's our big watch list with the 1,000 best players in college football. So we should have quite a few Cincinnati players on that list, at least the 4 we mentioned today, and many, many more as well, too. So we're really excited to be part of the college football ecosystem, help promote these guys, and, of course, be the premier all-star game for these players that go to the NFL.
Awesome. Thanks, Eric.
Thanks, man.